It's Not You, 27 Wrong Reasons You're Single, by Sara Eckel. Introduction. Imagine sitting across from someone on a first date. It's in a cozy little bar in Brooklyn, the kind of place that feels both trendy and timeless. The conversation is flowing well enough. You've covered the basics: where you live, what you do, how many siblings you have. It's pleasant. A little generic, maybe, but pleasant. Then, your date leans back, looks at you with a cool, curious expression, almost like a doctor examining a patient, and asks a question. It's not, "What are your passions?" It's not, "What's your favorite movie?" It's, "What's wrong with you?" The question hangs in the air, sharp and heavy. For a moment, you're stunned, outraged. But then, a colder, quieter feeling creeps in. A feeling of dread. Because deep down, in the quietest hours of the night, it's the very same question you've been asking yourself for years. This is the exact moment that opens Sara Eckel's transformative book, It's Not You. Eckel, a thoughtful and gifted writer, spent the better part of her adult life wrestling with that toxic question. She, like so many of us, had bought into the pervasive cultural myth that if you are single and don't want to be, there must be a fundamental flaw inside you, a problem that needs to be solved. Her book isn't another guide on how to play the game, fix your flaws, or manifest a soulmate. It is something far more radical, far more liberating. It's a manifesto of self-compassion. It's a quiet, powerful dismantling of the 27 most common, and often contradictory, lies that society tells single people. By the end of our time together today, you will understand a profound and life-altering truth. The search for love isn't about fixing yourself to become worthy. It's about uncovering the brilliant, unshakable worthiness that has been inside you all along. We're going to explore the difference between fragile self-esteem and resilient self-compassion, and we will replace the myth of self-improvement with the truth of self-acceptance. So, let's begin a journey to quiet that critical voice in your head, once and for all. Book summary. For many years, Sara Eckel lived her life as a project called Sara 2.0. This was her grand mission: to construct the perfect, most lovable version of herself. She was convinced that if she just worked hard enough on her own shortcomings, love would arrive like a reward at the finish line. She diligently obeyed the constant command to get out there. She spent countless hours and dollars on yoga, gym memberships, and acting classes to build her confidence. She learned to cook, taught writing to disadvantaged kids, and even bought an apartment to prove she could commit. She was doing everything she was told to do. She was checking every box. She was becoming happier, more confident, more accomplished. And yet, she was still single. And in the quiet of a Saturday night, the question always returned. A familiar, unwelcome ghost. What's wrong with me? This is the trap that so many intelligent, kind, and wonderful people fall into. Society presents us with an endless, dizzying menu of possible pathologies. One day, you're told, "You're too picky." The next, it's, "You're not picky enough." You're too intimidating, but you're also too needy. You're too independent, yet you also have low self-esteem. These messages, which come from friends, family, and a multi-billion-dollar self-help industry, create a maze with no exit. They convince us that love is a puzzle, and our personality is the flawed key. If we could just sand down our edges, polish our surfaces, and change our shape, we might finally unlock the door. But what if the entire premise is wrong? The book's first and most powerful revelation is this: finding a partner is not a prize for good behavior or a reward for personal growth. A respected marriage researcher named John Gottman, who can predict with stunning accuracy which couples will divorce, found that everyday neuroses have almost no connection to marital success. We all have our crazy buttons, our insecurities, our unresolved issues. The key to a happy relationship, he discovered, isn't having a perfect personality. It's finding someone you mesh with. Think about the happily married people you know. Are they all perfectly zen, emotionally flawless beings? Of course not. They are cranky and neurotic and sometimes drink too much, just like everyone else. And yet, they found someone who loves them anyway. The difference, Eckel came to see, is largely due to chance rather than character. This brings us to one of the biggest myths the book dismantles: the idea that you can't love another until you learn to love yourself. We're told that the root of all our problems is low self-esteem. The solution? Stand in front of a mirror and recite affirmations about how wonderful you are. Volunteer at a soup kitchen, not primarily to help others, but to feel better about yourself. The goal is to build an impenetrable fortress of self-worth. The problem, as research from psychologist Kristin Neff shows, is that self-esteem is fundamentally fragile. It's contingent on success. It works when you're winning, when you get the promotion, when the person you like calls you back. But what happens when you need it most? When you get rejected? When you fail? When you feel like dirt? In those moments, high self-esteem offers no protection. People with high self-esteem feel just as bad as people with low self-esteem when they mess up. It crumbles under pressure. There is, however, a much more resilient and gentle alternative: self-compassion. Self-compassion isn't about convincing yourself of your greatness. It's simply about treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend. It's the voice that, after a painful rejection, doesn't say, "You're a loser," or "He's a jerk." Instead, it says, "I'm so sorry you're going through this. It's okay to feel hurt. We all get rejected sometimes. You are not alone in this feeling." Self-esteem requires you to feel special and above average. Self-compassion simply requires you to be human. It's the recognition that failure, imperfection, and pain are part of the shared human experience. With self-compassion, you don't have to waste energy on a pep talk or on tearing someone else down. You already know you're okay, regardless of what anyone else thinks. It's a warm, steady glow, while self-esteem is a flickering flame, easily blown out by the winds of life. From this foundation of self-compassion, Eckel begins to deconstruct the other lies, the endless parade of twos that are used to pathologize single women. Let's start with the myth of the too-strong woman. Have you ever been told you're too intimidating, or too liberated? This narrative suggests that the very qualities that make you successful in life, your intelligence, your confidence, your independence, are liabilities in the dating world. It paints a picture of men as fragile creatures, terrified of any woman who can own a home or change a light bulb. Eckel tells the story of her friend Suzanne, a successful communications consultant whose boss once warned her that her confidence could be intimidating. Later, male friends told her the same thing, that she needed to appear more vulnerable. Confused, she decided to run an experiment on a bowling date with her boyfriend. She asked him for advice on everything, from what to eat to how to bowl, and intentionally threw gutter balls. He responded wonderfully. Even a friend who was there commented, "I think he's really good for you because you seem more vulnerable with him." Suzanne remembers thinking, "So this is what I have to do? I don't know if I can sustain this." The book argues that this entire premise is absurd. Playing helpless doesn't give you a romantic edge. It just weeds out the men who are looking for an equal partner. And the idea that successful women have aggressive, ultra-macho personalities is a caricature. Truly successful people, whether they are men or women, are usually masters of interpersonal skills. They know how to make others feel valued and essential. Furthermore, the data simply doesn't support the doomed career woman myth. In fact, it's the opposite. Today, women with college degrees are more likely to marry and less likely to divorce than their less educated peers. And a fascinating study found that for every year a woman waits to marry, up until her early 40s, she lowers her risk of divorce. The older the bride, the stronger the marriage. The qualities you've cultivated, maturity, self-sufficiency, and wisdom, are not obstacles. They are your greatest assets. Then there's the myth of the too much woman. On one side, you're too strong. On the other, you're too desperate. The world celebrates marriage as a cherished goal, but if a single woman admits she wants it, she's dismissed as sad and silly. This creates a terrible bind, forcing many to put on a performance of single and loving it, even when they feel lonely. Eckel bravely admits that she never truly loved being single. She wanted a husband, and feeling that desire made her feel ashamed, as if she were letting herself and all of womankind down. But the book offers a powerful reframe. Our need for intimacy and connection isn't a sign of weakness or immaturity. It's part of our genetic makeup. As neuroscientist Amir Levine writes, our brains are wired for partnership. Feeling a void when you're alone isn't a personal failing. It's a legitimate, biological need. The flip side of too desperate is, of course, being too available. This is the world of dating games. The one that tells you to play it cool, to keep him guessing, to never let him know how much you like him. It's the advice that tells women to behave like ice queens to keep a man's interest. But this, the book argues, is based on a false idea of confidence. True confidence isn't about withholding kindness or making someone else feel insecure. Think about the most self-assured people you know. They are generous. They give you their full attention, and they aren't afraid to be kind. As the groundbreaking researcher Brené Brown discovered, the core of all deep connection is vulnerability. It's the courage to be imperfect, to say I love you first, to invest in a relationship that may or may not work out. Playing games might prolong a relationship with someone who is ambivalent, but as Eckel asks, why would you want to? Finally, there's the most common accusation of all. You're too picky. This is the fail-safe criticism, the one that's almost impossible to disprove. Eckel tells the funny story of her friend Caitlin, who went on a date with a man who ordered a Shirley Temple. When she later shared this amusing detail with a friend, her friend exploded, "He could be the love of your life. And you're getting mad about the Shirley Temple." Caitlin was crushed, suddenly feeling that her pathological pickiness was the reason she was alone. But as the book so wisely points out, the Shirley Temple is never the real reason. It's just a tangible detail that stands in for something much harder to explain. A lack of chemistry. When you tell a friend a date didn't work out, they hear about the trivial detail, the drink, the way he drummed his fork on the table, and conclude you're being too critical. But you know the truth. It just wasn't there. The only standard that truly matters, as Caitlin articulated, is this. I want to find a guy who delights and surprises me as much as my friends do, but I also want to make out with. Every happily married person has a spouse who clears that bar. To settle for less isn't mature, it's cruel, both to yourself and to the person you're with. The book offers a simple, elegant definition of settling. You're settling if you think you're settling. So, if it's not our flaws, not our strength, not our desires, and not our standards, what are we left with? We are left with the reality of loneliness, and the shame that surrounds it. The book argues that loneliness is the ultimate taboo in our culture. We can talk about depression or addiction, but admitting to being lonely is seen as the ultimate shame. Eckel quotes a devastatingly beautiful passage from Zoe Heller's novel, Notes on a Scandal, about the drip of long haul, no end in sight solitude. It's a feeling many know but few dare to speak of. But once again, science offers a liberating perspective. Neuroscientist John Cacioppo explains that loneliness is not a pathology. It is a biological alarm system, just like hunger or thirst. It's a natural signal from your body that a fundamental need, the need for social connection, is not being met. The pangs you feel are not a sign that you are deficient. They are a sign that you have a functioning internal alarm system. The question then becomes not how to eliminate the pain, but how to relate to it. Eckel shares her own breakthrough, which came, as many do, in a yoga class. The teacher instructed the students to hold a difficult pose and, instead of labeling the burning sensation in their thighs as pain, to simply allow themselves to feel it without judgment. Immediately, she understood. The problem wasn't the sensation itself, it was the story she layered on top of it. I hate this. When will it stop? When she simply allowed the feeling to exist, it wasn't so bad. She began to apply this to her emotional pain. She realized that on those bleak winter nights, she wasn't just feeling loneliness. She was piling on layers of shame and self-criticism. I'm a loser. I'm a failure. What's wrong with me? She was, as the Buddhist nun Pema Chodron says, trying to put out a fire with kerosene. Gradually, she learned to stick with the original hurt. Simple loneliness. She learned to say, I feel lonely right now. That's okay. Everyone feels lonely sometimes. She started to regard the clench in her chest for what it was, a neutral sensation that would pass. This is the practice of mindfulness. Not to get rid of thoughts, but to see them clearly without getting swept away by them. This brings us to the book's beautiful, central metaphor, borrowed from the Tibetan Buddhist scholar Chogyam Trungpa. He suggests that our true nature is like a golden statue that has been buried in mud. Our culture, with its constant pressure to self-improve, convinces us that we are made of mud and must somehow transform ourselves into gold. We think we have some deeply rooted flaw that must be eradicated. But the Buddhist view is radically different. Everything is, at its core, basically good. We don't need to become a golden statue. We already are one. The work isn't to change our fundamental nature. It is simply to hose down all the muck and shame and self-criticism that we, and our culture, have layered on top of ourselves. When we peel off those dark layers, we are left with a simple being that needs no improvement. This was the realization that finally set Sara Eckel free. It came not when she met her husband, but before. It came after another painful rejection. A man named Dan, whom she really liked, ended things to be with someone else. A week later, her beloved dog died. She was 38, and she fell into a deep despair, convinced she would always be alone. In her grief, she concocted a story about why Dan had chosen the other woman. The other woman was surely more politically active, more dedicated to community service. In that moment, instead of spiraling deeper into self-hatred, a wiser voice kicked in. If you feel bad about not being politically active, then be politically active. She decided to copy him. She organized a building-wide stoop sale to raise money for a political cause. And on that sunny Saturday, as she sold old clothes and books with her neighbors, she had a funny feeling she couldn't quite identify. Later, sitting in a cafe, it finally hit her. Oh, this is what it's like to feel good about yourself. After all those years of tunneling through the mud, she had finally hit that little wink of gold, her own basic goodness. It wasn't there because she was attractive or talented or special. It wasn't there because she had finally fixed herself. It was there because she was a human being. That's it. Shortly after this, she met Mark. On their first date, he asked the dreaded question, "How long has it been since your last relationship?" She deflected, but a few weeks later, she came clean, gravely telling him she hadn't had a boyfriend for nearly a decade, and not for lack of trying. Mark just shrugged. "Lucky for me," he said. "All those other guys were idiots." And that was it. To him, she wasn't a problem to be solved or a puzzle to be figured out. She was just a girl he was falling in love with. He wasn't looking for a cultural ideal. He just wanted her. Commentary. The most radical and healing idea in It's Not You is the profound relief that comes from letting go of the question why. For years, Sara Eckel, and millions like her, operated under the assumption that being single was a riddle that must be solved. If she could just find the right answer, the right theory, the right flaw to fix, she could unlock the life she wanted. But the book's quiet wisdom is that there may be no answer. And that is not a tragedy. It is a liberation. It frees you from the exhausting, endless project of self-improvement. It allows you to step off the hamster wheel of self-analysis and simply live. In a world that is obsessed with optimization, with life hacks, 5-step plans, and the relentless pursuit of a better self, this book is a quiet act of rebellion. It suggests that perhaps the most courageous thing you can do is accept yourself, exactly as you are, right now. Your life is not a waiting room. It is not a dress rehearsal for some future, better life that will begin when you find a partner. As Melanie Notkin says in the book, when a friend worries about her being alone for the rest of her life, she replies, "This is the rest of my life. Right here and right now." This message is more vital today than ever. In the age of social media, we are constantly presented with the curated highlight reels of other people's lives. It's easy to look at their engagements, weddings, and baby announcements and feel that your own life is somehow lacking, that you are falling behind in a race you never even signed up for. This book is the perfect antidote to that pressure. It gently reminds you that you are not in a competition. Your journey has its own timeline, its own rhythm, and its own unique wisdom. So, how can we begin to apply this gentle wisdom to our own lives? Here are 3 simple, practical actions you can take, inspired by the book. First, The next time you feel that familiar pang of loneliness or self-doubt, simply notice the story you are telling yourself. Is it one of the 27 wrong reasons? Are you telling yourself I'm too intimidating? Or, I should have married that guy from college? Don't fight the thought. Don't judge it. Just label it. Oh, thinking. Like Eckel in her yoga class, you can separate the raw feeling from the painful narrative you've layered on top of it. Second, practice the art of self-compassion. The next time you face a rejection or make a mistake, resist the urge to either beat yourself up or puff yourself up. Instead, ask yourself this simple question: what would I say to a dear friend who is going through this exact situation? Chances are, you would be kind, gentle, and reassuring. Now, try offering that same kindness to yourself. And finally, find a way to connect with your own basic goodness. This doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Like Eckel's stoop sale, it can be a small act that aligns with your values. Volunteer for an hour. Help a neighbor carry their groceries. Create something just for the joy of it. Do something not to meet someone, not to improve your life resume, but simply to remind yourself of the golden statue that has been there all along. Ultimately, this book is not about finding a partner. It's about finding peace. It's about the profound freedom that comes when you stop searching for what's wrong with you and start recognizing what has been right all along. Your life, right now, in this very moment, is not a problem to be solved. It is a story to be lived, and it is already whole. We've journeyed through the heart of this book today, but there's a difference between hearing a story and living it. If these ideas have sparked something in you, I truly encourage you to pick up a copy of It's Not You. Reading it is like having a wise, kind friend sit with you and quietly say, "You're okay. You've been okay all along." It's an experience, and it might just be the one you need right now. I've left a link for you in the description. And if you enjoyed exploring these big ideas with me, make sure you're subscribed to Billionaire's Bookshelf. We're a community of people dedicated to learning and growing together, one book at a time. Hit that subscribe button, and let's continue this journey. I'll see you in the next summary.